So Sylvester, I wanted to ask you a question that's not even about Doctor Who or The Hobbit for that matter, but I know you've answered a lot, but I find this the most fascinating detail of your CV. You were a bouncer for a Rolling Stones concert? Forgive me, you're not really what I would call a bouncer type.
Well, no, I'm getting more bouncy now. No, I was a skinny little runt, and I was a bouncer for the Rolling Stones. I stood on this side of the stage, Mick Jagger and all the rest were there dancing, and they had on the other side, and it was a Canadian young, and he was skinny as well and small. The two of us were there to keep people from coming up from the theatre onto the stage. No one did. It was in the days of innocence. It was the last concert the Stones did in England before they came to Altamare. Yeah, Altamare. I didn't realise the bouncers there, they killed a few people. I didn't know that was part of the tradition, job description. Are you having a nice time? I'm watching you. Don't feel embarrassed. Nice of you to call. Give my love to somebody. Anyway. Yeah, no, so I was a bouncer for the Rolling Stones. Very proud of that.
I want to ask you a question. One of the things about how you play the Doctor, I've talked to a couple of the writers who worked on your shows, and they said that you really wanted the climax of your stories to be about the Doctor defeating the monsters with wits and not with guns. And so that's why you have all these great confrontations with your monsters where you do verbally. Why did you want that?
Well, you see, I said earlier, for those that were in, that I hadn't really seen Doctor Who for years. My memory of Doctor Who was very strong on the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, who was my first Doctor. And, my memory, most likely it was wrong, but I had this feeling that he was kind of a comedic Doctor, and that's why I started off that way. I also thought that I did then see some videos of the others, they showed me quickly, and I started doing violent things, and I was amazed at that. I mean, I really was. I didn't think the Doctor would be. Because, he's a very bright, intelligent alien from Gallifrey, and therefore he would use his intelligence rather than violence. I mean, violence, my Doctor believed, was, as I believe, not a strength, but a weakness, human weakness, and the Doctor would try and solve the problems by the brain rather than by the brawn. I mean, he was a superhero who didn't wear his underpants on the outside of his trousers. Sometimes he wore them on his head, but that's about it.
Now, you alluded to this earlier, but one of the things that sort of influenced how you developed the role of the Doctor was your own grandmother, and you were reflecting on her. She was 100 or something like that.
Yeah, she got to 100, and that was in the 80s, and there weren't many 100-year-olds around then. Now they're just tipped in a penny, they're all over the place. So she got to 100, and that was quite unusual. And she was bright, and, consummate and all that. But there was a kind of sadness about when you chatted to her, she lived so long. And I kind of started thinking, well, the Doctor's 950 years old, and she lost some children in her life, and she lost, friends, and so I wanted to bring that into my Doctor. I thought, yeah, I'll use that. So that's what I did, tried to do it.
Now, you've gone from making Doctor Who in very, very tiny quarters in BBC Television Centre to making Hobbit, and where it seems to be populating half of New Zealand. What is it like to sort of do the Hobbit and now and sort of think about your Doctor Who period? It's quite a big change in how film is made.
Well, yes, I suppose it is in a way. I mean, it is big. All the sets were big. My dressing room was big. I mean, it used to be a toilet when I was at the BBC. Changing that. They weren't very good to us there. That was that way. Yeah, no.
But at the end of the day, it's still acting.
It is. It's not any different, really. The camera's there, there's a camera, bang, that's it. And, the camera's the BBC as well, really. It's just your relationship with the camera, acting. Whereas safety work is different. When I did King Lear with Ian McKellen, you might have heard of him, he's a big fella.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did King Lear, we toured the world with it. We played to opera houses, 2,500 people, and things like that. That was interesting. Because, as an actor, you had no microphone, so you had to really be powerful, really be big, to get to all those 2,500, especially the ones at the back. So that was quite an adventure.
I wouldn't be remiss without asking a question about working with Sophie Aldred as ACE, because you worked with her for most of your time as a doctor. I mean, you and Sophie have a really great chemistry. I mean, was it evident from the first time you met her that you were going to get along with her like you did?
Yeah. There was actually from the very first time when she arrived on the set, and she started laughing at all my jokes. I thought she could stay. I know we got on really well. We still do. We're in touch.
Yeah.
In fact, she bought me this hat. This is my birthday present from her. One of them anyway, which is nice. Yes. So that's good. We're great mates still.
So do you remember? Sorry.
I can borrow my teeth if you wish. They're working for me.
Do you remember? Do you remember getting the call from John Nathan Turner and sort of getting asked, would you be willing to play? Was it completely out of the blue, or is it something that you were that you were trying to get before? Or?
Yeah, it was a long journey. Actually, bizarrely, it was a long journey getting The Hobbit as well. But it was a long journey because for years people used to say to me, you'd make a really good Doctor Who. And then I started to believe them, how foolish I was. Oh, maybe. And then I heard that Tom Baker was leaving. And so I got my agent to phone up the BBC and said, "Oh, sorry, we've already cast it." And, that was Peter Davidson. So that was it, that was fine. And then years later I heard on the radio, on the news, that Colin Baker was leaving. So again I got my agent onto it. And he phoned John Nathan Turner, and John Nathan Turner said, "Sylvester who?" And my agent said yes. And that was it, really. No. And they kind of just got chopped. And then John Nathan Turner hung up, and his phone rang again. And just as luck would have it, synchronicity, really. The other guy on the other end of the phone was a producer, a BBC producer I'd worked with a lot. And he said to John, "I think you should see Sylvester McCoy." Now, he'd just been talking to my agent. So this made John interested. I said, also, as luck would have it, I was doing a musical play at the National Theatre, playing the Pied Piper, which had been written for me. It was a really good audition piece for Doctor Who, really, and the way it was written. And so John came along, saw me at the National, and went back to his office, said, I've found my new doctor. But I still didn't have the part. I had to go through lots of hoops to get it. I had to do screen tests, because the powers that be above John didn't believe that this comic kind of character, could actually take on Margaret Thatcher. And so we did a scene where I took on Margaret Thatcher. I just call something else. And I passed the test. But the test was fixed.
Right.
Because the screen test he did with 3 actors. 2 other actors who were great actors, but totally wrong for Doctor Who. So John knew what he was doing, so he did this, and it was obvious that I was the only one that was right for the part. Those 3, there were most likely other brilliant actors out there who could have done Doctor Who equally or better than I. But anyway, that's how, I got the part, because John cheated.
Your doctor, we were talking just a minute ago about how you sort of thought of how the doctor should have the sadness, and we talked about how you wanted him to have more witty scenes. You seem to have, compared to other actors who played the part, you had a lot more contact with the writers, and you had a lot more input in the scripts. Did you know how unusual that was at the time?
No, I didn't. I was completely ignorant about the whole thing, really. No, I didn't. All I knew was that this is what I wanted to do, and I hadn't really followed the other doctors, so I didn't know what they did and hadn't done. It wasn't like I'm going to change it because I think they went that route. I was given the role, and I suddenly realised this is the most interesting television job in the world. It's one of the best acting roles on television. You can do anything with it. You can go anywhere. The whole infinite variety of things you can do with the Doctor, and that's what I wanted to do. Just use all my skills, find, and also bring back the mystery. I wanted to bring back the mystery because I thought it should be mysterious, and I wanted to bring back the who, who is it? What is it? And can we trust it? Maybe he's good, maybe he's bad. We don't know.
I think we're about to take some questions from the audience, so why don't we...
Okay, why don't we put the lights up and
Yeah.
Oh, have you all queued up nice and neat?
Yeah, they're all queued up nice and neat.
Oh, that's very nice. Because
We're a former British colony. We know how to queue.
Yeah, so you don't put hands up there. I can't see you. Where are you? You're up there. Other people up there. Other lights. The house lights. House lights. Everyone got a screen. Good.
Okay, so
What's your question?
I'm going to ask about actually The Hobbit because it's coming out next week,
Yeah.
and I was wondering if there's anything that you can tell us that we can be looking forward to seeing,
No.
or just in general about your experience in The Hobbit, or exciting things with Radagast. He's going to be doing more crazy stuff.
I don't know what Radagast actually going to be doing in Hobbit 2. Because I haven't seen it. I see it tomorrow in Germany. I'm going to Germany, Berlin tomorrow. And I'm going to be trying to stay awake through it. My sons are going to be there, and I'll say to them, please kick me when I'm on. If I fall asleep, I don't want to miss that day. Yeah, so I can't tell you anything about the second Hobbit. The first Hobbit I enjoyed immensely. But as you saw, that clip with that, the hedgehog. When I was doing that scene, I thought, this is it. I'm all by myself in this huge film. It's just got to be me. And I've got this stuffed hedgehog. Wow. This is brilliant. Then I go along and watch the film. What I find? I've been upstaged with the bloody thing. Those wizards at Weta. They've been upstaging little blackguard. I killed it really, because I scene. Now it's his scene. And when I was talking to Richard Taylor, who runs Weta, makes all the stuff, all the models and all that kind of stuff. But he was making all these models and all that kind of stuff. He said the most popular model. Fuck me. No, it's Sebastian. Everybody wants to get Sebastian. I hate him. He hates me 24. Anyway, so, yeah. And then the rabbits. Bloody rabbits are staging me. So much fun. I like it going out into the audience and saying, anyway, what do you want to ask?
Well, you are trained as a clown.
I never trained at anything. I did actually train with the poo. Yeah, I was thinking this one because I said to my agent, a couple of months ago, I said, listen, there's a job going in the Vatican. Phone, keep your eye on that phone. You might phone up any minute now, Because technically, any Roman Catholic male can become the Pope. You don't have to be a priest or any of that, technically. Yes, you are if you're a Catholic.
Yeah.
I'm a false one.
I was wondering, with the clown training, how do you bring that into your characters, like the Doctor, Radagast, or other things?
No training, no clown. No, I wasn't trained as a clown. I just worked. No, actually, at the age of 27, someone mistook me for an actor and offered me a job. I had no idea that, I had these skills. But I had them, and there they were, and they just popped out whenever they were required. Clowning seemed to be the thing I was doing, because that was the very first job I did. And then I got other jobs doing musicals, and opera, and, kind of serious stuff. And it was just, I had sometimes this baggage and stuff. But I tried. When I did Doctor Who, well, there he is there, that's me. I arrived ignorant of the previous Who's, and I just came with my baggage, comic stuff. And that's how he started off, more comedic. And it was then gradually as I got to know him, I developed into the darker side, the mysterious side. So that's really it. I hope that answers your question. Good.
Aces are really the best companion for you. They work together really well. But if you had to choose a different companion from Ace to be your companion, who would you choose?
You. I choose you.
I was wondering, because you're a classic Who doctor, what you thought of the new doctors and how they portrayed the new.
Yeah, well, I think they're great. I mean, when Christopher Eccleston came into Christopher Eccleston. You can follow me around if you want. I'm answering your question. You can... They can see it because of my new companion. Christopher Eccleston I thought was great. And being a kind of a working class Mancunian accent, I thought that was really terrific, he had that. And then, David was terrific too. He's a Scotsman. Oh, another Scotsman. Although he decided not to do it in Scottish. And I remember getting a phone call from Glaswegian, the Glasgow paper, and they said, "Oh, that's so nice. Have you heard? David's not doing it in Scottish. What do you think?" And I thought, "Oh dear, what am I saying? No idea, really." And I then thought, well, I said, David could do it in Scottish standing on his head, because it's just not, it's easy. Whereas doing it in a kind of estuary English, that's what they call it. It's only that kind of English, posh English, with bits dropping your H's. Anyway, doing it that way, it's more, challenging for an actor. And then I also said, well, of course, he also wants to prove to the world that Scottish actors can do accents. Because even Sean Connery. Oh yes, I'm Russian. And the next time he comes on and says, "Oh yes, I'm an Egyptian." He's an Egyptian in the Highlander. Have you seen the Highlander? Yeah, the movie. Oh, you've got to see it. I come from the Highlands, but the Highlander's got a French accent. I've been speaking with the wrong accent all these years. I've been speaking like Quebec or something, Montreal accent. So, yeah, you had to prove to the world, that Scots can do accents and that sort of thing. And then there is Matt. Now, yes, I only just met him this year for the first time. He is a delightful young man. I remember when I heard he got it, I said, "Oh no, they can't give it Doctor Who to a 12-year-old. It's not fun. He's got to be an open man. That's the way it is." I know they give it to this 12-year-old, and he's brilliant. He's got a face that is so amazing, and you can believe he's 950 years old and an alien as well, all in the same take. And when I met him, he's very much like an Afghan hound, a puppy. Wagging his tail, licking on, So, is that all right? Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay, you can go now.
What was it like playing
Major life, didn't it?
Back on the neck. Yeah, I think it's I worked with him for many years. We did King Lear together, and it was a world tour, and it was a year and a half really. We toured the world doing King Lear, and I played the fool to his king, and it's like a double act in many ways. And I got to work with him and know him, and then we did a pilot for television comedy, which didn't work, called The Academy, because it was all improvised. But it was good fun working with him on that. And then I got the thing about getting Brown was that I was actually up for Bilbo Baggins, originally in The Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
Yeah. And I got down to the last two. It was myself and Ian Holden. Sadly, he wasn't working that week and he took the job. Anyway, I nearly got Bilbo Baggins. And so they knew me, Peter Jackson and Fran and all those people, they all knew me and knew that I was, they must have liked me really, they kept me in mind. And so I got Randy has to go out. You can follow me around if you want. All of you sitting down there, come on. Let's get down and dirty. The audience. Yeah, so that's how I eventually organized the brand. Because we toured with King Lear to New Zealand, and then, I met Peter and Fran and all the people, and so they, said, do you want to play Radagast? We'll write you a bigger part than Bilbo Baggins was in Lord of the Rings. And I said, yes. You want to ask a question? I sure did. I gave him rice pudding. I gave him trouble. I gave him hell. I met him and I destroyed Scarrow, his moon planet. I didn't actually destroy it personally. I mean, he did, because he was sending up a beam of evil towards us, and I just made it turn around and it hit his planet. Okay? Good.
So you mentioned before your fondness for working with Ian McKellen. I have a question for you before I do my actual question. I've actually been working on an Ian McKellen impression, and I was wondering if I could ask you the question in that voice.
Indeed you can.
Regular Mr. McCoy, I'd just like to ask you one question, please. What kind of preparation do you put into all of your roles and jobs that you do as a professional actor? Like sex students.
Gosh, it's just like being back there with him. Well, preparation. I'm an instinct. It's all instinct. I don't do any kind of theory. I don't pick up a tree. Whatever it is, method. I just learn the lines and try to bump into the monsters.
Sorry?
In Doctor Who and, that kind of stuff. And it's instinct, pure instinct. And I remember someone saying that Ian McKellen is in a way similar. What Ian does is he stands on the edge, he feels as if he's on the edge of the stage and he's going to, he dies off, or he stands at the side of the stage, comes onto the stage, and he's no idea quite how it's going to go, what's going to happen. And I'm the same, really. You know the lines, you know the moves, you know the various different things, but there's also another element, and you've no idea what it is. And bang, it happens, and hopefully, when it doesn't happen, then I suppose it's time to retire. And oh yes, I keep forgetting. You don't go back to your own seats and then put your hand up. You're too organised, you idiots.
So I was just wondering, we're surrounded by everything that we love this weekend, Doctor Who, Lord of the Rings. What are you excited about in books and TV and movies these days? What are you watching and reading?
Well, John le Carré's latest novel I read recently, and what I'm reading Ireland is now the place where they're producing very good detective stories. It used to be Scandinavia, and that's past. There's now got Johannes. I'm reading a book like that. I watched Breaking Bad. I thought it was amazing. Those who've seen it know what that means. Excuse me, mate. Charles, I must call out the name. That kind of stuff. I didn't watch The Bridge. I don't know if you've heard of The Bridge. It's Scandinavian, Danish detective story, which was brilliant. And I just finished, because I've been touring all year, I've hardly seen anything. But I got a very bad cold, and which in a way I was quite pleased about, because I didn't have to just sit and watch reams of stuff, like that. So I watched all of The Bridge, which was stunning. Cool? Are you happy?
Yes.
Okay. Where's your seat?
I'm over there.
Okay, I'll just go.
you, sir?
Hi.
First off, I just want to say you were my first doctor. You were the one that I based every doctor that I've ever seen on, and you were fantastic.
Thank you.
And everyone's questions before mine have been a lot more impressive than mine. But I've always wanted to know, like, when the Sylvester McCoy Propaganda movie came out in 1997.
Yeah, thank you. You put it the right way around.
I was so ecstatic to see that you were going to reprise the role of the Doctor and that you were going to get a regeneration even though you got shot. But it was nice to see actually people trying to save you this time. Instead of just watching you lie on the floor and, oh, someone died. Anyways, back to my question.
Great acting, that was. What are you doing in my TARDIS?
Bigger on the inside. I'm trying not to fanboy out right now. So I'm just wondering, did it surprise you when you got the call to reprise the role of the Doctor in the movie? Like, did you even think that you would do it, when the series ended in 1989, were you surprised to get the call again? Did you think you would ever? I think you understand.
Was I surprised? I can't remember. I remember do the Doctor because I am the only actor to have played two Doctors. I was Doctor Who number 7. I was Doctor Who number 6 and Doctor Who number 7. Yeah. Because I played Colin Baker, who didn't turn up for the regeneration from his into mine. And Colin still claims that in fact he's actually still the Doctor. And I started a whole new line, and then he's number 6. That's why I'll carry on for a few more years because he'll eventually do a handover to some other person. Anyway, so Colin didn't turn up, and so I had to dress in Colin's costume. He lost me for 3 days, and when he put me inside it, and then they put a wig on me, and I was Colin Baker on the floor there, and that was me, and I turned over, and then I turned into me. From he. It was Colin Baker. So I thought I must, whatever happens, do a regeneration. That's what I thought. It's not I don't care what's happened out. Because Colin, rightly so, had bad time, with the BBC. And so, it was understandable he didn't want to have anything to do with them. But I thought, no, I must do, no matter what. And so I was quite pleased to do it in Canada, in Vancouver. It was much more luxurious than the toilet I used to change in. They gave me this huge Pantechnicon, and in it had a kitchen, it had lounge, it had showers, it had lighting for every mood of the day. It was so luxurious. It was huge. And then when what's his name that played the master, Richard? Eric Roberts. Eric. Yeah, when Eric arrived, he arrived and went. I'd been there for a week or so, and he arrived. He looked at his big dressing room and said he didn't like the carpet, so they changed the carpet. And I thought, I knew you were supposed to do that. I used to ask them to change the toilet roll at the BBC, but change the carpet? I thought, wow, I wish I'd known that I had mine changed. And so that was fun to do that. And I felt it was my duty to hand over to that ugly little fellow from Liverpool. What's his name? Paul McCann. Do you know, they've got photographs of me and Paul McCann together, and he's taller than me. Because they've put him on a box. He's a wee dwarf, just like me. You could sit now, but you should disappear, don't you? There we are. Over here and you're over there. No. You're younger than me. And it's nicer to watch you run than me. You got a husband, honey. That's fine. He's dressed up as another Doctor. The wrong one. You married the wrong Doctor. Anyway, we're all the same. I'm your husband as well, and he's a Doctor. Davidson's daughter's married to David Tennant, and it's very confusing.
David Tennant is married to Peter Davidson's daughter.
So musically, I was actually going to ask you about the fact that Colin Baker has been going to these gatherings and calling you an imposter, but you seem to have just answered that question. So instead I shall ask you, which would you rather travel by? TARDIS or Radagast's bunny sled?
Actually, the bunny sledge, because it's much more fun. I mean, you just go to the TARDIS and it goes, and then that's it, you're somewhere. Whereas the bunny, you have to hang on like grim death. I mean, when I was filming it, there were 12 men pulling ropes. And I actually flew off. I mean, I actually did fly off it once. I was saying they asked me to do some double takes, and I was holding on like mad, and doing the double take like that, you know. And then they said, more, and then at one point, my hand flew out, and it was, the sledge was on a big rubber ring thing, so that they could bounce it about, and I just flew off the concrete floor. Oh. My bum, and my head was just about to hit it when one of the guys in the studio, who's a rugby player, dived and grabbed my head just before it hit. Saved me from being knocked out. That's good.
Yes.
Okay, now go back to your husband. Any more questions?
I think
You put your hands up if you want. Yes, I'll come to you. I'll come to you.
I'm trying to lose a couple of pounds. Can we just do a quick one?
Yeah, with me. I did.
Lawrence and Olivia.
Yes, Lawrence. Yeah.
Do you mind walking this way?
No.
My son, I thought.
All right. Hi. How you doing? It's very nice to meet you. I like your
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Were you contacted for or involved in the 50th anniversary at all?
What a cruel question.
Write him out of the will.
No, we didn't. You haven't seen the Five-ish Doctors? What kind of parent have you got? Sure you knew 5 doctors. Yes, it's disgrace. Watch the Five-ish Doctors, and that your question will be answered. Okay.
Thank you. So Lawrence, Olivia, are there any other actors that you admire that you've worked with?
Yeah, loads really. Can't remember any of the names, I'm so old. But I've worked with lots of actors, some of the really good actors. Oh God, I can't remember. That's a question. Loads of actors. I don't want to say in case I insult somebody. But yeah, what about Olivier? What with Ian McCann? Is that his name? Yes. There's other people like that. Yeah. Who else would I work with? I loved Sophia. You could work with her. I can't remember anyone's name. I think I was dropped on my head as a child and bashed the bit where you keep names. I can't remember my own name half the time. I also forgot my wife's name. This is the official name. We've been married for 15 years. Anyway, I like your son's question better.
We have time for one more question.
One more question. Ooh, sorry, I up the back. It's just so far away.
Did you miss anything from Doctor Who?
Miss anything from it? Everything.
Like your companions, Shinsin, Dialects and Monsters?
Miss it? Not really, no, because I'm still doing it. Because there's a company called Big Finish who make audio. They make audio, stories of Doctor Who. And I'm still being Doctor Who.
God, where is
Which is great. I mean, Sophie now, she's getting on a bit. What do I know? She's still stunningly beautiful and young looking. She's playing that 16-year-old, I think, still. Which is one of the great things about radio. There he is again. He's back. It's in the Louvre. She took a long time.
So finally, Doctor Who's been around for 50 years. Why do you think it's been around for that long?
Well, I think it's because Doctor Who is kind of one of those stories we love to hear again and again and again. They say there's only 5 stories under the sun, and that man's genius is to retell them in different ways. Mankind's genius. Ladies are brilliant. Mankind means that. Anyway, I always say so I don't want to be sexist. Anyway, so that's a story we all love. It's a story of someone coming from outside the planet, from way up there in the sky, down, taking on, our form, and trying to save us and help us. Lots of stories have been told like that throughout the ages in the Far East. Even religions have been told the same story. So I think that's it. It's the kind of story we love to hear. And also it's because you keep changing the doctors every now and again, you don't get bored with the same face.
Well, we'd never be bored with you. So.
Thank you.